or wait until 2 years after when you graduate or near graduation and ask him at that time. Again, we can see that this question, and the teacher believes that this question is a question for many students. It is a question that is based on the assumption that the recommendation letter is done the way it is done, most likely, most of the time, out there, which is not the way we're supposed to do it that way. It shows, and as the teacher said, this question does not go just for this student. This question, it is known that it is a question for many students because we do know a better way to go for a recommendation letter. So it's understandable why we have this question. The question shows that we want to get a recommendation letter as soon as possible without really being in contact with the professor from the time we met until the time we are ready to apply for a school. So this gives us an opportunity to speak a little bit about how really it should be done and why. When we find a teacher that more or less we feel like we can grow together by knowing that professor, by working together with a professor, by discussing together with a professor, during office hours, after office hours, by doing research. He has a research lab, by responding to a seemingly not request, but sometimes teachers will need some help for some things. Some student to videotape one of his presentations, or there are so many other things that teachers could get some help. And many times students offer without even being asked to contribute as an internship or some help for the teachers. And this kind of relationship can be maintained for even sometimes until graduation. For example, one of the students that was actually videotaping this type of workshop 2 years ago, from that point right there, his name is Brian T.U. He's now second year at the Einstein Medical School. He was in one of his first, teacher's first speeches, was the last lecture series invitation. And after that talk, he came and said, would you like me to do a website for you? I said, sure, why not? If you know how to do it, you can do it if you want. He created the website, which is called today thelifecurve.com. He maintained it until he graduated. He was willing to videotape the speech, his teacher's speech 2 years ago. He went together with his teacher to go and buy a digital tape recorder because the teacher didn't know anything about electronics. With all kinds of this kind of relationship and all these, sometimes invited with other students in the teacher's house to have dinner together. With all this kind of time together for years, the teacher really comes to know the student, knows about his character, knows about his reliability, knows about all the things that these questions we posed before. There's no way to answer them if we do it the way we're doing it usually. And we want to do it right. And it's beautiful to realize that by trying to do an internship or to offer your expertise in some things that the professor might not know how to do it or doesn't have time to do it, by having an attitude of learning and listening from someone who has greater experience than you, by showing obedience, by showing respect, by showing skills of organization. All these things, they might not be very well developed, but at some point you'll realize that the teacher might be helping you to really grow into these things that you lack, right? And by the time you get the recommendation letter, the teacher recognizes that you grew with this, through this process by, this relationship, Even though in the beginning he will not give you a good recommendation letter, by growing within this relationship, the professor at the end might give you a very positive recommendation letter because you grew through this process, and he feels very comfortable and confident in your abilities and in your present state of doing things, being in the lab or functioning in social, interpersonal give and take. These are things that the effort should be made to really develop that relationship with the teacher. By just taking a class with a teacher and you got a good grade, that should not be the feedback that the professor should have in his hands. And a resume, a personal statement, some things that they come from outside and not from his own direct observation. So if we really want to do it right, and we grow through this relationship, and we get a positive recommendation letter, and we are put in a place that we will belong, because through this process, if it's an honest process, and if the professor is willing to be a mentor to you, you will find most likely the best place for you to go, or even to major, or even to apply. Teacher was walking a few minutes ago, coming from his car, and he noticed a room over there with beautiful yellow flowers, this big. And that room is very expensively made, with heat inside, lights and everything. And the conditions are perfect for the flowers to grow and become so big and beautiful. But imagine if the electricity goes off. What will happen to these flowers? It will not take a few hours, and they will wither, and in a few days they will be completely dead. That happens to people when they might write personal statements, and they might put things that they might be true. The professor might say things that he read from the resume and the personal statement, and the student goes and applies to the school and gets in. But because there is no any mentorship, there is no any exchange between the student and the experienced teacher to really see if this is the major that should go, if this is the school that you should apply. What is the aspirations that you have, and why do you want to become what you want to become? Why do you want to go to that school? All these things should be discussed with the ones that they will write your recommendation letter. This person recommends you to the society, to the world. He tells you, please, take my beloved student, train him more than I was able to train him, because I believe in him. I believe in her. He is able to do these things because he is shown to be promised. That should come out of a loving relationship between the student and the teacher. It should be a relationship of true love and respect between the two. It shouldn't be a dry, write my recommendation letter, here is the papers. We should see it as a process to grow, to be able to find our soil when we need to be planted tomorrow. That's the way it's supposed to be. But it is not happening most of the time out there. And this video hopefully will come out good, and teachers and students will think about these things, because we need to be sincere when we do this. And then we can avoid instances like students go to second, even third year in medical school, and they drop out. And they say, I'm going to go back to school and get a business degree, or a philosophy degree, or an art degree. These things happen many times. And the worst thing that can happen is when students go and they plant themselves in a soil that does not really belong to them. They don't belong to that soil to be planted. If they have courage enough, and they are courageous enough and bold enough to come out and go and do what they love, that's great.